Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey, private practice heroes. It's Colaiacovo with the Marketing Your Private Practice podcast. And today we're doing one of our free marketing reviews. And in the studio, I have with me Kelly Fox. And she is one half of the sister duo who hosts the podcast Chasing Brighter. The other half is her sister, Jessica Colarco. So not only do they have a podcast, but they also have their own day jobs too. So welcome, Kelly, to the podcast. And it's great to see you again.
Yeah, you too. No, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So we actually met in real life in January of 2024 at the PodFest Global Expo Conference.
Yes.
I can't remember the official name, but
yeah,
we were in Orlando in January. So I was there. I had gone because my podcasting coach, Adam Shively from Podcasting Business School, was there and encouraged me to go. And I had gone virtually the year before. So there was a bunch of us from his school kind of hanging out. And you and Jessica and a couple other people were kind of there in the lobby, and you just sort of
lurking,
sidled on up and came on over and introduced yourselves. And I am so happy that you did, because we all really got along really well.
Yes.
And we made some good connections, which conferences always do that, I find, don't you?
I think increasingly so. I think that they've figured out how to really capitalize on networking before you're like running from thing to thing and you're tired. I think a lot of conferences really focus, especially when it's smaller business focused conferences where it's really about networking, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's something that isn't necessarily my strong suit in terms of networking, but I think PodFest really tried to nurture it, right? And really fostered in a way that everyone felt comfortable. So no, it was awesome. It was really great meeting you. And we really hit it off with a lot of fellow podcasters, which was fun.
No, it was really nice. So I'm going to do an official intro of you. So Kelly, as I said, is part of the podcasting duo from Chasing Brighter. But Kelly herself leads a strategy and technology consulting firm, and she's based in Chicago. So she is always immersing herself in new projects and hobbies and loves applying innovative thinking to tap into the best ways to live and thrive in our world today. And it's funny, I didn't notice the word thrive in there because you know me, I have like the Thrive Marketing Academy and everything. So I thought that was kind of cool. But thrive is really a word that I feel a lot of people can apply. When you think about it, you understand what that will mean. Like you can have that visual. So that's why I always like using it.
It's a great word. It's almost like you can feel it.
Yes,
too.
Exactly. You know, there's ways to describe how you can grow in business, or there's different ways, you know. Of course, the AI is always telling everybody now to unlock their potential, but I don't want to, I try to avoid that. But for me, it's one of those words, and I think it's why I chose it when I rebranded the Academy a few years ago, is because it does have a different meaning to people, but it will always hit them because in their head, they can envision what that means for them. And you don't have to get into a lot of specifics when you're talking about that. So your partner in the podcast is your sister, Jessica. And she is a licensed clinical social worker in private practice. Funny.
Yes.
And she's based in Henderson, Nevada. So you and her do the podcast, I assume, virtually is how you run that and put that on. And so Jessica is a level 1 Reiki healing and certified integrative mental health professional. So she's been in the social work field for over 20 years, and you're in the technology field.
Yes.
And together you have the podcast Chasing Brighter.
Yes. In some ways, we both fix things.
Right.
So maybe we have that in common.
You
we just took different paths.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome that as sisters, you have this business going. I have one sister. There's just the two of us.
Same.
Until we were probably in our late 20s, we were almost mortal enemies,
Yes, absolutely.
For a time.
Same.
Yeah. But I think life changes when you get older. And I do appreciate that relationship with her now. I never would have imagined it before. Still not sure I could go in business with her like you are. But anyhow, that's a tale for another day. So we are here to talk about a marketing review for you. And you wanted to do a website review on the podcast website, which for those listening in is chasingbrighter.com.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. So as we dive into this review, I do want to remind all of you listening that these marketing reviews I do are free and they're open to everyone. They're my way of giving back and helping business and practice owners out there who have a roadblock when it comes to marketing and growing your business. And my goal is to take a half hour, get you on the podcast, talk about some of your struggles, and give you some of those first steps to get moving and take some action and start seeing the results you're looking for. Reaching your goals, as I say. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And I always like to go back and read the exact words. So sometimes people apply a little before we actually get to talk. So what you said, Kelly, in the application was you launched the podcast and blog 2 years ago. You're looking to gain more traffic to the website. You put a lot of energy into your weekly blog posts and other features, but you're not seeing a lot of traffic growth. So tell me a little more about what you feel is happening behind the scenes of that statement.
So I would say that I am flying by the seat of my pants a bit on our website, right? So and I think about this the same as even my business. And I don't know if other business owners feel the same way where, you launch your business, you're busy with work, right? And then same with our podcast. We got busy with the podcast itself, and then we wanted to have the blog. It takes time. It's a lot of care and feeding to manage and maintain the web. So we first launched with Weebly, which really didn't work for us. And we moved over to WordPress because we had a lot more flexibility, which was really great. But the Weebly is really a great website for people who just want to set it and forget it and move on. But if you do want care and feeding and growing and getting traffic, it didn't really support that. So we moved to WordPress. But WordPress is so flexible that it was overwhelming, like what to do, right? So I think what I've learned and what I'm continue to learn and what I want to talk about is it's more than just throwing up some pages, thinking about how you're going to organize it, and then posting blog posts, figuring out how to really refine your keywords and really optimize SEO. So I think our traffic has improved since we moved to WordPress, but definitely not to the level we're having a lot of success with our podcast. We have a lot of followers. And I think where we're struggling is to really bridge that gap between those listening to us and those visiting our blog.
Okay. And so you look after the website?
I do.
Yourselves?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no website manager, techie person behind the scenes. It's
no, in fact, yeah. I mean, to that point, I'm the techie one. And I was like, I can do this. I can figure this stuff out. So, Jess is really focused on the production side, I would say.
Right.
And then I've been on the content blog side.
Okay.
And so I've leaned into that.
Right.
She's wanted to outsource it. She outsources her own practice web stuff.
Right.
And I've been like, I don't know if we need that. So maybe we do.
Well, and there's always a time I do believe that outsourcing is helpful. We were talking earlier before we started here about how I don't do the editing for my podcast. I have someone that I hired. I never wanted to do it from the beginning because my time I felt I could put in elsewhere. I always look at when you want to outsource, look at the opportunity cost of what you'll get back in the time for what you're going to outsource and what it will cost you. So I always did examples of, let's say you make for even numbers, $100 an hour when you work with a client, right? But you could outsource for $25 and save yourself an hour. You're going to make $75 an hour doing it that way. So I always look at anything like that. I look at programs, tools. What can they save me? People are always like, oh, why do you have the paid Canva or the paid this or that? Well, you know what? Canva's like $15 a month. And that puppy, with hitting magic buttons and resizing things, it can save you more than that in one session. So
100%. And I've really been thinking about that. In fact, this week I clocked myself on how long does it take me to write the blog post and get the show notes going and all of my content that I created. Because I think I've gotten a lot busier right now with my real job. And then you're balancing it with, everyone is always balancing with time management. And so really thinking about how you're spending your time and what, like you're saying, the bang for the buck.
Right. Exactly. And that's part of why I teach folks in my Thrive Marketing Academy that you create that one anchor content piece, which for you is your podcast and the show notes that go with it. And everything you write for that one piece, you just pull out pieces from it to become your marketing content, to become your newsletter, all of that. Okay, so that gives me a good idea here. The other thing I really need to know to give you some advice here is with a podcast, it's a little bit different, like where we're looking at the podcast and what you're trying to do with it. It's not like you have a business, a service that you're offering from it. For me, I have a podcast where I'm essentially looking to get leads for the business and have people sign up for my services. You both have what I call a passion podcast.
Yes.
So you're not selling your work services, and Jessica's not offering her services as something where you do calls to action on the podcast. You've started the podcast for a different purpose. So can you dive back a little and tell me, what was the goal for the podcast other than affecting other people, like reaching them? Do you have something else behind that and the purpose on why you're putting the time into the podcast?
Yeah. So I think it's really about, in some ways, I feel like we're in our infancy of this passion project in a lot of ways, because we do want to figure out how we can make it a greater movement. Okay. So really creating a movement, inspiring women who are trying to balance everything and really get the most out of life. And I think what we keep talking about ourselves is like, we're on a journey and every woman is on their own journey, and really about inspiring us all to be mindful of that journey we are on in life. The cliche about life is about the journey and not the destination. And really it's, what do you want to do in that journey, and making the most out of those times and that time we have here. And so that's really what Chasing Brighter is all about, is chasing, that's what we call it, like chasing that brighter version of yourself. How can you continue to get the most out of life and, bring back joy? I think sometimes, especially, our focus has been midlife women, right? Where life starts to kind of take over and you lose yourself. Right. And so that's really been what Chasing Brighter is about.
Okay. And that's kind of what I thought from this. So are you looking to do anything with this to make money right now?
Yeah. So I think we have, in the coming year to 18 months, we want to do a retreat.
Okay.
A women's retreat, and really focus on all those aspects of getting the most out of your life. So I think from a revenue generation perspective, looking to get probably some ad placement within our podcast. Okay. So we're continuing to sort of stay on our goals of growing our listenership with a podcast. And then ultimately, part of this movement is really working to inspire women and do things that sort of draw them together in events.
Okay. So have you been, and everybody knows me, I've got 10 marketing foundations I'm always looking for people to have. So in those are things like your website, having a blog and putting that anchor content out there, using social media. One of them is also having an email list and collecting names and emails. If you are looking to have a retreat at some point, I'm going to ask you the question, are you out there? Do you have a lead magnet, and do you have an email marketing system where you're collecting those names? And do you encourage listeners to the podcast to get more from you by signing up? Do you have any calls to action like that, or anything set up like that?
No, we don't, Kathy. I mean, this is a great conversation. I think this is where what I want to learn, right? You are the expert here too. Yeah. And there's an opportunity to kind of put an email. It's very subtle on our website. to do that. But no, we
Right.
haven't done any deliberate activities about that. So that's great. Yeah.
Okay. So if part of your goals are to have a retreat, you've got to have names that you can communicate to. And that's the big difference between a podcast and a blog and a newsletter list.
Okay.
By collecting the names and emails, you can communicate to people on your terms and send them the information.
Okay.
Your blogs and your podcast, you have to get people there somehow to listen to it. You don't have their names. You don't have their emails. You might know they're a follower on your podcast or a subscriber to the podcast or a visitor to the website, but you have no other information.
Yes.
So if part of your goal is to host a retreat, you need names and emails of people to tell about the retreat. You cannot, and I would not recommend relying on people getting all that just from the podcast.
Yep.
So part of what I would tell you here, and I do think part of this is, I talk about 10 marketing foundations, and I do have a quiz that people can sign up for to find out, where you're at with your marketing foundations. Mm-hmm. When you do the quiz, you'll kind of find out what status you're at. And then I'll send you a checklist and give you some information on what these 10 foundations are. But the important thing here is with something, especially with that ultimate goal, it just has to become part of what you're doing. And I did do a little peeking around on your website. So I kind of already had an idea of what you're doing. And when you said, a subtle way. So on your homepage, if I scroll down to the bottom, I do find sign up for the newsletter to join the journey. And then it says, and you probably haven't looked at your website in a while, but what it says is monthly newsletter coming late 2023. Join now.
Ah.
Okay.
Did I get that going, huh?
Yes. Okay. So change the words. And then you've got a first name and email people can put in, and then a submit button. So totally inappropriate, but I tell people your form on your email list. So number one, nobody wants your newsletter. They don't want it. They want something that will help them. You actually have a download on your website of what is it there? So you have a button on your website. It says downloads. And when they go to that, you've got a grateful activity practice where people can just download a little PDF, I assume. And it's something they can print out and write out every day. Today, I'm grateful for blah, blah, blah. I love that. That's something that I learned a lot working with Bob Proctor and his students when I used to go to their events as their marketing and virtual assistant expert to work with his clients. So it's an awesome thing. Do you ever tell people about it in the podcast?
Probably not. No, we did it when we launched that episode.
Right.
And
exactly.
Then,
And so what happens is people can go there. Okay, everybody listening, do not go to this page right now. You need to wait till Kelly fixes it up. But you'll be able to get this grateful activity and print it out only if they sign up and give them their name and email. Okay. You have a lead magnet here.
Gotcha. Okay.
It is something you can start with and connect. What email system are you using?
I think MailChimp.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that another time. I would probably tell you to go elsewhere, but
we haven't committed to anything.
Good.
Yeah, that was our plan. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so what you've got there on the homepage, you do have this, but people would rather get that activity for, being grateful, a grateful exercise they can do every day rather than sign up for another newsletter, because we all sit there and think, I've got too much in my inbox. I've got inbox overload. Nobody wants to get another newsletter. So you definitely need to change your purpose with some of your calls to action and how you're asking people at the end of your episodes or on your blog posts of what to do next. Because there's not very many blog posts you have that are talking about anything you offer. You do send them to get coupons from a wellness thing or other things, which I think are probably affiliate, different ways of making a little affiliate money. But you want people buying from you. You want people signing up with you and getting in your community and giving them your name and email. So really getting that lead magnet set up and getting that foundation in place is key. And once you set that up, then you're going to go back to your form and you're going to change the button, and you're not going to have it say submit. You're going to have it say, send me the download of the grateful exercises or whatever it is. This is where I say it's totally not inappropriate, but nobody will ever forget it after I tell you this. Submit is not yes, you're going to submit your information, but I always say, just remember, most people in the world don't like to submit to anything except the lady from the book, 50 Shades of Grey. So they want to have an action word there. So you want something that's more actionable. Send me the whatever it is. Okay. So you do want to change that. You want to change the information there. And at some point, it's not going to be sign up for the newsletter to join the journey. It's going to be sign up and get your copy. It's not even going to say sign up. It's going to say get your copy of the Grateful Exercise and start your day off every day knowing where you're going to be on your journey.
Okay.
Enter your name and email and get your copy now. There's also a little thing at the bottom of code. I don't know what that is. I think you need to check that out. It's under the form. But a couple things. So why is that important to change the date? People, when they see that, might assume that you're not in business much anymore because this is out of date information. It's not 23 anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a perception people will do in a judgment. So I always tell people, make sure that you've got good information up there. Okay. The other thing I really think that you need to think about is the purpose that you have for the podcast doesn't exactly come across in the way of them so much more as it does as you and Jessica. So on your homepage, it says, Chase with us. We're Kelly and Jessica. We're sisters, wives, business owners, moms. We're chasing after the brightest version of ourselves. As women, we often lose ourselves as we proceed through the life cycle. Join us as we go on a journey to find the best versions of ourselves and work to untangle who we are. Not meaning to be mean, but I'm going to ask you a question. Why would I, as a listener, care about listening how you're going to find your best version of yourself and untangle who you two are?
Right. I see what you're saying.
You're not helping me there at all.
Yeah.
If you turn that around, and it's on your podcast description as well, welcome. And you could get way more SEO friendly with your podcast description, by the way. Welcome to the Chasing Brighter podcast, where Jessica and Kelly take you on a journey of self-discovery. We encourage you to keep chasing a brighter version of yourself. That's a great purpose. But the entire purpose of your podcast is we're here to inspire you with our stories so that you keep chasing the brighter version of yourself.
Yeah.
You have to give people a reason to follow you, to sign up with you, to listen to you, whatever it is. This isn't a service you have like some of the folks that I work with, but you want them to do something, right? So you still have to make sure you have the what's in it for them in your messaging over just what's in it for you. And I think that would help a little more, especially as you get to the point where you kind of grow up a little bit more with the path you're on here and get the lead generation system in place and get all of that set up so that you could start having those calls to action to do more. Because then if you get the newsletter going and you're building names and emails up there, what will happen is you can do exactly what I do with mine. I send a weekly newsletter out. It has some tips, it has some information, and it reminds them that the podcast is there, that they can go listen to it, or they can read the details on the website if they're a reader.
I love that.
So that can help you get more people listening to the podcast as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are a couple top things. I'm going to highlight something for you. And I wrote my notes down. There's a big boo-boo on the website. So I'm trying to be nice here. But if you go to your About page, and this is going to impact, your credibility, basically. You've got a really good, and another time, Kelly, we probably really want to have a talk about SEO because there's not very many, you have a WordPress website, but you don't have much optimization going on your pages.
Okay.
And I think you know that.
Okay.
But on your About page, when you scroll down after the information at the top, then you've got a little bio, the bios that I took for you and Kelly, or for you and Jessica. Your images are broken. So the image is not showing.
Okay.
And then right under that, I'm going to read it, but I want you to understand here. It says, sign up for the best travel tips and adventures. Quas, alias, valit, saluta, voluptum, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some frequently asked questions. Okay. So you've got stuff left over here in a template. So this is your immediate action step from this lesson today is you need to go update that About page. You need to get your pictures back on there and do that. And when I tell people about this, how do you avoid this? So one of my free downloads that I offer is a stats tracking template. So I have a template on marketing stats and numbers and different things you should track on a regular basis to understand if your marketing's working. And I always tell people part of that should be looking at your Google Analytics, keeping track of the top 10 pages visited every month and looking at how people got there.
Okay.
I always recommend to my clients, when you do this, at the same time, that's when you go do a website check. Click on every page, scroll down through it. And that would be the kind of activity, if you were planning to do those checks when you do your monthly stats, that's probably something you would have noticed a little earlier. That's often where people will find the sign up for their email is broken, right? Because I always say, when you're doing this, test your email sign up. Test everything as if you're a visitor to the website. And so again, not that that's going to help not bring people to the website, but it's actually because you've got in keywords here, travel tips and adventures. You've got, and the Q&A that's there too.
Yeah.
This page is probably confusing Google because you're talking about a podcast and you're trying to reach women and, inspire them. And now we're talking about travel tips. So it could be a little block to traffic. It's not huge, but it's more credibility.
Yeah.
You got to get that one fixed up. Okay. So I know after this, you're going to be going to every page, and that's what you should do, and head over there and figure it out.
Okay.
The last recommendation I would have for you on the website, and this is more, so part of this, we're talking about your foundations. We're talking about your messaging. We're talking about your goals. So, building an email list is going to help you reach that goal of having a conference or a retreat. So you're going to have to put some of this into your planning. You're going to have to start thinking about calls to action and doing a little more than what you are right now on the podcast episodes and where you put those into the blog posts. Okay. I always tell people every page needs a call to action, but it's got to be an effective one. So on your work with us page, we work with partners, blah, blah, blah. And then you have a work with us button, and that's a link to an email. I always recommend having a contact page. And I do have an episode on optimizing a contact page. But I like to give people, when you want to talk to some of these, like you're looking to serve sponsors or listeners or readers, right? And you have a book club. So you've got people that are doing this kind of stuff. Can people book a free consult with you? A free 15-minute discovery call?
We haven't done that. No, we could.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link in the show notes for this, but I believe it's episode 9 of my podcast. It tells you how to optimize a contact page. I would recommend kind of doing that with your work with us page. To me, it seems more like a contact page a little bit, work with us or contact or reach out. And you want to make sure that you're including things on it, like your names, what the options are. And I would use a form versus a button that goes to a live email link.
Okay.
Because that's not always the most effective, and it can put your email at risk of getting grabbed by spams and bots and stuff where they go sell emails, and then you start getting spam email.
Okay.
So that's another piece I would like you to look at. My last tip for you today on how you can get more traffic to your website is Instagram seems to be your top social.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So part of what you want to do, you are sending people. So on Instagram, you have a bio, co-host for Chasing Brighter podcast, sanctuary for women navigating life with strength, grace, and a sense of adventure. So I do recommend, I think you need to go back a little and look at your big message that you want out there to people, and you want to tie that into
Tighten it everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Tighten it up everywhere. You want people to understand, like on the Apple podcast description, this is all about, Chasing Brighter it sounds like it's for women primarily. It sounds like for women who are looking to find that, brighter life for them and chase it down, and that you're going to be there to inspire them. That's the message I want to see you put out with this. It should show on your Facebook page. It should show all of that, but also in your links. So on Instagram, you're sending them to the homepage. So how do you on Instagram tell people to go to the blogs or to the podcast show notes to get that? What do you say? Just click the link in our bio, or do you ever say anything?
Yeah, so we'll do that when we drop an episode on Thursdays.
Okay.
Then the post that we have will have a link to the blog, corresponding blog post. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So I'm looking at one here from a couple of days ago. Happy Monday. This mom talk discusses self-care, navigating busy family schedules, blah, blah, blah. Join us in the conversation at the link in our bio. So this was from a specific episode, correct? a couple of days ago, or
the
a
Mom
repurposed
Talks,
one?
we don't have a corresponding blog post.
Okay. All right. So, I'm going to look at Mindset Over Matter.
Yes,
That was one. Happy Thursday,
Yep.
Today's episode, blah, blah, blah. So when you're sending people over to that, so you're saying it's on the website here, what I would recommend is you have Instagram lets you have 5 links in your bio now. I don't know if you realize
okay.
that. And I do have an episode on that and how to optimize your LinkedIn profile as well, and not use, for anybody listening, link in bio links. Don't use them. There's another way to do it. I'll put a link to episode 18, which is all about that.
Okay.
But what you could be doing, and this is how I do it. So when I have my promo post that goes out for this, and for those listening, this is the same. A promo post to a podcast episode is the same as doing a promo post to a blog post.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you should be telling me in there the full episode number, whatever it is. Now, don't put the number sign on Instagram because you make it a hashtag, and a hashtag, whatever number, is not a good one. But put it on there and say, this is all in episode number 32. And you can check that at the podcast link in our bio.
Okay.
And that way, when they go to your bio, one of those 5 links that you could have would be a link that goes right to your podcast page. So that if they're on there and they want to look at the one that you were talking about, and I don't know if you have numbers on them or not, but then they can at least kind of figure it out. Like you have the Mom Talk 28, you have Embracing Worth, different things like that. You may want to add, I put a number at the end of mine so that there's some identifying factor, and that I'm not wasting good keyword rich space at the beginning of the podcast title.
Okay.
But you could be putting that on there so that people have a better reference point. If they do want to click the link in the bio and listen to it, they know what number they're looking for. Okay. And these are actually some strategies. I'm in the process of building a self-study course for podcasters on how to optimize their marketing for their blogs and their podcast show notes. But that's something that a lot of podcasters miss. And people with blogs, businesses with blogs, it's the same thing. If you have your blogs on one page, they all have a base page, and you can always make some sort of reference. With a podcast, people will look for a number of the episode, right? So if you did that and then they come to your page with them all there. So for instance, recently I would have said, check out episode 93 of my podcast. The link's in my bio. So when they go there, they can click the link in the bio. They can see, because I've named it, and it says podcast. So they know if they click that, where they go, and they want to do a reference to number 93.
Okay.
Now, I also do a sub CTA, or just DM me and I'll send you the link directly.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, that's another option. So if you make a couple changes like that, Kelly, that should help build a little more traffic back to the website too.
Yeah.
And since we've been talking, your new podcast show notes and your blogs will have calls to action to get somehow on your email list at some point.
Yes.
And that's how you build the list from that kind of traffic. Okay.
Awesome.
So those are the biggest things that I would recommend for you to overcome some of this. You're definitely missing a lot in the marketing foundations, those 10 foundations I'm always looking for. You're possibly creating a little extra content that you need to, which may be why you feel like your marketing and updating the blogs is taking a lot more time than you want it to. So there's ways to cut down on some of that too. But a lot of it is really about just being really strategic and thinking about how you put your content out on social media. And if any of it is meant to direct them back to the website, how you do that.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people don't auto post Instagram posts to Facebook. You'll say link in bio on Instagram. But when somebody sees a post on a Facebook page that says link in bio, there is no bio there. And you actually waste the post, because on Facebook, so if you do promote these on your Facebook page, you should be putting those where you mention the podcast with a direct link to the exact page on your website where that episode is.
Yes.
Because when you do the link in bio, sure, it saves you time because you only had to punch it in once and you could post it in both places. But if there's no clickable link on Facebook, which is an option that is on Facebook, you're missing the opportunity for people to just click a button and go read it all or listen to it.
That's brilliant. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I love this.
So,
lots of low-hanging fruit opportunities,
yes,
which is awesome.
There are lots of little things you can definitely fix up. So that's where I would stop probably for today, because otherwise we'll overwhelm you a little bit. But I think definitely for you, Kelly, and for anyone listening, if you're wondering about your foundations, I will put a link to that foundations quiz that I have, and it'll give you a checklist of the 10 foundations. So you can kind of look at that and work with that and see what you have already, what you might need to add, and where it's going to, and how it's going to help you out too. So that will take us to the end of your review today.
Yes.
Any final questions you have?
I don't know how long it'll take you to answer this, so I'll ask it simple, which is about the email and the newsletter. So what kind of email solution do you recommend?
So they'll probably find somehow the name MailChimp coming out here when they see this or whatever. I personally don't like it because it has, and I've sent in questions to their help, it has limitations on forms and where you can send people to thank you pages. That's why I don't like MailChimp. And I feel there's better alternatives that you can get that will work more effectively. The top two that I like these days, because things can change, are ConvertKit. And they do have a free option, but you only get that without any of the automations and all the features for a 2-week trial period. And then you have to pay a fee. Now, if you have under 300 names, your fee for an entire year, if you paid up front, is $108.
Okay.
Again, we go back to the opportunity cost of time and money, right?
Yeah.
MailerLite, Lite, and I'll put links to both these in the show notes. MailerLite has an option as well for free to 1,000 names, and you get most of their automations and features.
Oh, okay.
I find it a little more confusing to work with, but I've also used ConvertKit for probably 10 years now. The MailerLite can work really, really well for a lot of people, but a lot of times how you want to look at this is what features are there to integrate with your website or anything else you need.
Yeah.
For your WordPress website, you could use either, Kelly. Either one are there and good to go. The added bonus I always like with ConvertKit is they have an e-commerce option now. So if you want to sell a digital book, or if you want to sell a coaching service or something like that, you can actually connect to Stripe, make a product, and it's all connected to your email system, and there's no extra fees for that. So it can be a really good way for someone to get an e-commerce if you need to get that set up. And you just pay the regular Stripe kind of fees, the credit card processing fees most do. So I'll put a link to that in there. I've got a couple blogs, I'm sure, on choosing an email marketing system, things like that. We have a module, a bonus training in my program, and I give it to the members in the program because when it comes to choosing something like that, everybody will give you a different opinion when you ask them. It's the same as if you ask people, what should I build my website on? You have to think about what you're using, what platforms you have, what capabilities you have, what your tech abilities are, what you have for learning and resources, and then make your decision is how I like to go about it. But those two would be my top two.
Okay.
And they would fix you up probably, they'll do most everything that you can have what you've got going now. But in my opinion, they have some more flexibility and features that will help in the long run. So that's just my personal opinion on it.
Got it. Cool.
Okay.
Well, I've got some work to do.
You might, yeah. So thank you again for opening up and letting me talk about some of the things I found on your website and how we get better. Improve.
Yeah.
It is how we get better. A lot of people are scared to come on the reviews, but I do encourage people to sign up. I'll have a link to where you can get in for your own review with me. I always tell people it's not that scary. You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.